Welcome to another episode of Peers Over Beers, your favorite digital and social evangelist podcast, with your industry veteran hosts, Chris Detzel. This podcast starts now.
All right, welcome to another Peers Over Beers. I'm Chris Detzel, and
I'm Elizabeth Kinsey.
hi, Elizabeth. How are you again?
I am doing well. How are you this week, Chris?
I'm doing well. So, next time I'm not going to, do the introduction. I'm just you say who you are because you're no longer a guest. You're just who you are, but you're.
I feel like I've been here
timer.
enough that I can just come right in on that intro without any. It's just a smooth landing.
Exactly. So our pre-show, we're talking a little bit about planning. So both of ours planning is starts really in we call it FY23, and it's in February, and I think yours is too. So what does that mean to you? Planning and everything else.
Yeah, I think so. We're the same. Our fiscal year starts in February, so we're in FY23 right now, and we definitely start planning, before February 1st. Yeah. What are the big things that we want to do? And that starts really at the company level, at the exec level, and then kind of comes down into marketing. There's a lot of collaboration. Since we were acquired by Salesforce, we started using their planning methodology, and measurement methodology, which is called the V2 Mom. You can go over to Trailhead and take a course on V2 Mom, learn all about it. But essentially, it's a way to organize your goals and how you're going to measure yourself and really prioritize. And so it stands for vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. I'm like, shit, I should have written that down. I always forget what that, but it's too many. It's such an interesting acronym. Anyway,
the more you say it, the more you'll get
the more you say it, the more you forget what it actually means, because you just know intrinsically what it means. Yeah. You're like, it's a V2 Mom. But it's similar in ways to like OKRs out of Google or any myriad of different ways that you can plan objectives and how you'll measure your results. So for us, we're working towards the plan for the whole year. The V2 Mom will definitely kind of change and, is flexible, which is something I like about it. And the other thing I really like about it is that the methods that you're using are not just a list of tactics that you're going to take. It's really like, what is the impact that we're going to have and how are we going to get that? What are we going to deliver? And then you can list all the tactics underneath that. But it prioritizes them. So, that first one, that is your top level priority. So it really gives you a path for what do we need to work on? What are we collectively working on? So for us, we're kind of right in the team level. So it comes down to me through marketing, since we're in the marketing org, which is something that was interesting that we were talking about earlier as well. But so we're in the throes of that. So we've got like all the things that we think we want to measure ourselves against. All the vision is in, the values are in. So now it's just fine tuning everything. And in the meantime, we've been doing stuff. So it's not like that train ever stops. You're always planning and doing at the same time.
That's always the challenge. And we have something, I wouldn't say it's similar, but at least a planning, and we call it a plan on a page. So basically, all the way from the CEO and his executives, each department has a plan on a page, and then it funnels down from the executives down to me and us, and we kind of deliver our own plan on the page. So, we'll have kind of what we call how we win initiatives, key priorities and outcomes, and then how are we measured by those things. And so that really just says, this year I had 1, 2, 3, 4 different kind of initiatives, which they're kind of big initiatives for community. And then I would just put out the priorities and outcomes and those things. So thank you for bringing in your cat. What's your cat's name?
Yeah, this is Itchy.
Itchy, oh.
Yes.
Wow. Where did you come up with a name like that?
Is this his first appearance?
Yeah, I think so.
I think usually he's napping in the sunshine, but with the time change.
Yeah, it's a little different.
His sunshine has already moved. So he was part of an Itchy and a Scratchy. Scratchy was his sister, and she She left us last year, but he's still around. They were 19. He's going to be 19 this year. So he's an old guy. But so they Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons. So
I love it.
we were a big Simpsons fan and still are, 19 years ago.
Yeah, Simpsons have been around forever. I mean, I was just talking about that with somebody the other day. This show just keeps going. So
yeah.
Anyways.
You talk about longevity in a community.
Yeah, no doubt. We digress a little bit, but that's okay.
We did. That's the cat is always worth a digression.
It is. Absolutely.
Anytime anyone brings an animal into like a work from home situation or a kid or anything, I'm like, no, we need to stop, acknowledge, say hello,
say hi. How's it going?
I feel cheated. A little bit. I feel cheated if it's just like a guest appearance and no one acknowledges it. It's like, am I seeing the same thing you're seeing?
Anyways, so we're kind of playing on the page, and then I'll create another slide or two that has all the tactical initiative or things that I'm going to go do to drive those particular, outcomes. So does that make sense?
Yep, totally. I think the other thing, I love the idea of like a plan on a page. It just sounds very encapsulated. And I think it's always good. One of the things that I'm really bad at, obviously, is brevity. Like I'm just terrible at it. And so for me, when I'm planning, it's like, how can I get this down to fewer words every single time? And that's like the biggest thing for me is like, how do I make sure that I'm not being over the top?
Well, the way I do it, the plan on the page, you just make the words smaller. So what are some of the things that I'm interested in? I'll share some too, but what are some things you want to accomplish, big picture anyways, for this year?
Yeah. So, I think growth is always something that's top of mind for communities that are still in.
Do you mean acquisition, basically?
Oh, no, I mean like acquisition of community members, but not necessarily. Yeah. So I think that's always top of mind, especially, getting more awareness for the programs that we're running, getting more folks involved. Another goal that we have is just overall community growth and being able to measure that. Like, who is the unique person in the community and what's the overlap between the programs that they are participating in, which I think is a really good indicator when you're going into building some like kind of an MVP program, which is eventually what, I definitely would love to introduce at Slack. But you have to kind of know what makes people MVPs first. And that starts with knowing where people are participating or what they're contributing. So getting that dialed in this year is a big goal. I think we spent a lot of it is about like taking the foundations that we set last year and starting to build the first story of the house and plan for the second story. So that's what most of it's about. And then also just, team excellence. So can we grow the team? Can we make sure that all the things that we're doing are in sync and in line? Are we working well with our cross-functional partners? And then, community is at a lot of events. So how are we making sure that the community is represented in stories and in content and with activations? And then of course, how do we work with the rest of the Salesforce ecosystem? Because there's a bunch of really great communities, and how do we make sure that we're connecting and sharing? So those are all things that are kind of top of mind for me for the coming year.
So when you say, I'll get to mine in a minute, but I'm interested, when you say MVP, what do you mean exactly?
So I think I've seen there's a bunch of examples of this in kind of B2B communities where folks they have sort of a higher class of community member that is usually application based. It's usually review based. It's all around what are you contributing to the ecosystem? So a lot of times it'll be, you're creating content on your own and you're, sharing that out with people. You're helping to educate others. You're doing things like writing blogs, you're maybe hosting events on your own. Maybe you're a user group leader. Maybe if you have a forum or some kind of digital space, you're a top contributor, you're answering lots of questions. And like I said, a lot of this is usually like nomination or application based, and it's a small select sort of superstars, right? So
Kind of like
But
a super user program, basically.
yeah, like a lot like a super user program. Yeah. Or like, so I've heard them called champions programs before, but I think
Just whatever,
that's like, I think the nomenclature is,
MVP.
variable, but
Yeah,
it's like the most MVP, most valuable players. So
I like that. So something that I'm doing is developing a rewards recognition and gamification program, and so really what I want to do is, and a lot of communities have this, but really to start identifying, and I'm going to start calling it MVPs, because super users is just, I don't know, maybe it sounds a little old school, but
I feel like
MVP,
they need capes if they're going to be
yeah.
super users. Like you just can't have a program like that without a cape. And not everybody looks good in a cape. So
and I'm thinking like and super, you're getting me off again, Elizabeth.
So I know,
I love
I'm
it.
terrible.
But I think of super users as being a person that just really wants to answer a bunch of questions, and maybe they're not doing much else. So maybe the MVP is kind of the word for it, but is really starting to get to that MVP. So that, as of now, I'm a team of one, but I'm hoping to hire somebody either by May, well, hopefully by May. So if I get we'll see. But if I can do that, they can kind of run with that. Why I can do some more more strategic things. But I definitely want to have that in place, or at least, skeleton part of that, so that person can just kind of run with that particular piece of it. Because, I think that, identifying those and developing those advocates and MVPs is going to be key. And I believe that, I don't know what you guys have around rewards, recognition, gamification, badges and swag and all this stuff. I'm sure you guys give some stuff away, but that's what I want to get to. That's one big piece for the year. But the other big pieces for me is, so I also own what I call Reltio Executive Council. So it's the executives that of our customers that get together 4 times a year, and we sort of kind of throw out our roadmap and say, this is what we're thinking, this is what we want to go into, and they help influence that particular roadmap and a bunch of other stuff. There's case studies and things, but at that level, a lot of those folks are CIOs and chief data officers and those kind of folks. So how do you not just meet 4 times a year, but how do you kind of leverage that community of people to not just do things for you, but to really connect on a higher level basis? And one of the things that I really want to start thinking about is, and Slack has, a great following, and, people love Slack. And so and people love our product too. It's a little different. People will pay lots of money, and it's highly complex, and it's highly, so Slack can be complex depending on what you're doing, but for the most part, you turn it on and you're just slacking people. I mean, I'm not saying there's not integrations that people need help with, and some hard stuff, right?
There's definitely, and I think it depends on what level you're on, but I get what you're saying. Like there's a different level of complexity and especially on that kind of enterprise software level where you're talking to that high level decision maker and then getting their feedback in is so important.
And I think that there's something and I was talking to my CEO the other day about kind of this view of truly what is community. So he was saying, Chris, right now we just started the executive council a year ago, but how do we develop that into many executive councils and many sub councils and things like that? And then having people, kind of like Bevy does in a way, they just have people running events for them, CMX events.
That's what we do.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's what our community user groups
And I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like, how do I go do that? And that is the key at the end of the day, is I can have people from all over the world that I don't have to be at. And I can have a platform that, really, in theory, have something that really kind of, gets those people in, you get their emails and everything else, and you can really kind of just go deep and wide into the community. Wherever you are, you just give people access to things, maybe give them some swag and just some help and things like that. That's what I want to create and do at the end of the day. And that to me is awareness. That to me is also potential leads. That's also developing your community to be better at using your product and advocating for your product, but not just your product, but about the role of being a good data manager, a good data governance person, a good CDO, those kinds of things is what I want to do. Is I want to go beyond the product, and I want to be the community in that space. You know what I mean?
I love that. I love that
the
goal.
product, just the product. Let's just do everything. Not everything, but let's get to a point to where we can talk to all data managers for all things data, on how to build a data governance program from beginning to end, how to do entity resolution from beginning to end, and those kinds of things, rather than just product does help, and we'll talk about the product, but that's not what this space is about. If you get good at these other things, this product fits right in. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's interesting. So when I was at the last company I worked for, Branch, and was running mobile growth, it was very like Branch as a product. We obviously supported and paid for everything, and it was our, we ran the community, and they still do. But it wasn't about Branch. It wasn't just about Branch. Certainly there were moments where people would bring Branch up, where it would be the tool that is actually helping them with something. And it's definitely, if you are a mobile app product manager, you should go check it out.
Yeah.
But it was about how do you grow your mobile app? How do you make a better app? How do you increase or decrease friction for your users? How do you design, how do you make sure that, when iOS or Android changes something, that as an ads manager, it doesn't, totally screw up your whole world? So it's beyond the product. And I think that that's a really successful tactic to take. If your community, which is, your product is central to, but also has that, and the TED Talk thought leadership time too, but that stuff's important. I mean, it's part of customer education, right? It's part of that community education, because if you don't have the vision to see how the product can be used, it's a lot harder to get enthusiastic about the product. So I think they are very important sides of the same coin, in that, understanding the art of the possible is something that we like to say at Slack. Understanding the art of the possible, but then also understanding how to execute on that art. Like, it's great to take painting classes, but if you don't ever put a paintbrush to a canvas, then who cares? And it's great if you're just messing around, but if you don't have an idea of what you're doing or what you'd like to see the outcome of, or a vision, you're just painting a house, right? So I think they're the same thing. Lots of metaphors there, lots of mixed metaphors.
No, these are great, because, I can just take some of those stuff and put them out on audio or whatever. And, look, I think there'll always be a reason to have a product community, for people to get help on how they can do certain things with the product. But I'm also thinking about beyond that. And so when I think about that roadmap, which, it's probably in my future, is to really kind of think about the broader community, and not just think about, because think about it, everybody has a data problem. Every single person or every single company has a data problem. You think about Slack, you think about Salesforce. It doesn't matter what company it is. Big companies, smaller companies start running into that. There's these different business systems that really are disconnected from each other. So nobody has a single view of their customer, or even a single view of their product. One of our customers, for example, uses or has, let's just call it an aspirin of some sort, right? Like, think about the aspirins. There's a 5-pack, 10-pack, 20-pack, 150-pack. There's extra strength, non-strength. They're sold by, pharmaceuticals. They're sold in the store somewhere else, or at Target or wherever else. And so you try to think about how many different business systems are in that manages all of those aspirin-like things, right? And so think about if you had one single view. The reason, I'm not trying to promote the product, but Reltio does that. And so it's not just for IT people. Now, when people think of master data management, they think, oh my God, that just hurts my ears.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's a lot of words. But when you think of being able to get a single view of your customer, or you have a data problem, we can fix your data problem to where you don't have all these disparate systems. A marketer's interested, a sales leader's interested. We don't just have to look at the CDOs and CIOs and the IT-ish kind of people. So that's the kind of community I want to build. Is, you have a data problem, here's how you fix it. Here's the sales, here's the way you do it. Or it could even be by industry, whether it's, but it's the same, it's solving the same problems,
Yeah.
That's the kind of community I want to try to think of. I got very excited about that for a minute. Sorry about that.
We'll allow it.
But, that's kind of what I think about, or when I look at my plan on the page, so those are some of the things I'm thinking about. Something that we did start thinking about is, what was it earlier? We started talking about something.
I think we were talking about where community lives in an org. We were talking about
kind of were, yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about how we're both in marketing and how that's sometimes good and sometimes feels maybe not great. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if you saw the CMX industry reports came out this week.
I saw it. I didn't get to read it yet.
Lots of really interesting stuff in there. I think by far the most interesting thing, or one of the interesting things to me, is that most of the respondents, I think it was, I don't remember the exact number, but a lot of them are in the marketing org. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, their community goals shifted to acquisition. Mm-hmm. So one of the primary goals. And it's no surprise to me that if you are in marketing, then a goal that you have for your community is going to be acquisition.
Of course.
I think I think it's really interesting also looking at the size of the communities and the mm-hmm. size of the companies and how that relates to whether or not someone is focused on acquisition versus on something like success or product education or any of the things that we were just talking about. But yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. I mean, what do you think about marketing being where community tends to live?
I think that, so the last couple of organizations I've been at, I was in the customer org or, customer success area. And, so I thought of it that way a lot of, like you were saying, education or get the most out of the product or get them help. So some of it's support, some of it's education and those things. And even at Reltio, I was put into the customer org for the first, almost a year. Until recently, I moved over to the marketing. And I do find that it's a different language and a different mindset, because marketing cares about and sales, they work together most of the time to really think about acquiring new customers. They're just trying to get new. And so have to change sort of my language, not language, but the way I've got to continue some of the same things I did before from a customer and I haven't changed that. But I also have to look for opportunities to where, am I bringing in new business, potential opportunities? Am I, are my, when I look at the webinar program, I call it the Reltio Community Show. But when I look at that program, and I try to do one a week or one every other week, and I'm now pushing those contacts directly into Marketo, which goes into Salesforce and all that stuff. But from an influence standpoint, one, is it affecting potential new pipelines or people that aren't customers coming in? Are they prospects? Two is, am I influencing existing pipeline that might be for an existing customer? Mm-hmm. So we are starting to track some of that. So, that's positive. And I do get leads in the community. So how do I push some of that into that? So I think that one is you have to make sure that you're valuable to the business. And so you have to kind of think about marketing, but you also have to think about your customer experience and what is it that you really want out of your community. So I'm not against being in marketing. I think there's some really good things because they get digital more so than a customer org. There's like, why am I spending all this, so when you think about resources like SEO, people generally that is in a marketing org, or digital leader is in a market. And so you have more access to some of those digital things that are super important. But, on the negative side is you got to think about, are you bringing value to that organization? If not, then you really got to think about and become really good friends with the executives on the customer side or product side, whatever value you're bringing, and get them on your side to kind of push some of that. Because here's the thing: is customer isn't really an organizational thing. It touches product,
everybody,
it touches support, it touches customer success, it touches marketing, it touches a lot of shit, and so it's hard to really. But as the leader, we have to kind of hone that in and say, who is our audience, and present to that audience. Like, yes, I'll give you one example. Is yesterday I was thinking I had to present in front of a marketing campaign team. So it basically is marketing and sales together. And so they're going over the data around some of the campaigns they're doing and all this other stuff. And I thought, like, the day before, I was like, what am I going to present to this team? I got to really kind of think about that. And I did. I had thought about, well, hey, there was this opportunity that came in because of community the other day. I'm going to talk about that. There's and then there were some other things that were more geared around, like we have an Ask Me Anything with our CTO Manish and founder. Well, I can have a marketing campaign and bring in leads, so we can do that. But I can also bring in existing customers to ask Manish anything. So, that's another opportunity. And then I have a customer case study that's going to talk about Reltio Master Data Management on one of our webinars in May. And how they got value and all this stuff. It's public now, but I talked about that and say, hey, look, if leads want to know how Reltio provides value, or let's push that out. But also, people in our community they're going to be interested too, and then we can track that over time to see if that provided any opportunities. But at the very least, we get some leads out of it, and we have an acquisition. We acquire new customers on community, but we also acquire as a business. So I don't know if that helps or answers the question, but I think you have to think the way that the department that you're in thinks, but then whoever you're talking to, it goes for anything, customer and stuff like that.
I think it's true. I mean, I have a marketing background and have spent most of my community time in marketing. And so I think it's always been, that's just sort of been ingrained, but it does matter what the community is about, right? Like if your goals are acquisition and you're doing a lot of thought leadership and you're doing some product, then it makes sense that you align with the marketing goal of acquisition. But it also depends on like you were saying, who's your audience? Where are they in, when you think about a traditional marketing funnel? For us, most of the time, the community that we're talking to are people who are already users. And are there opportunities for expansion? Are there opportunities to talk to, all of that? Yes, true. But is the end goal of community to get that? It's not. It's to, for us, it's not. And so I think that's where there can be some tension if you aren't aligned with your executive leaders, if they are looking at acquisition goals and you as a community leader are looking at education, deepening product affinity, customer stories, turning your users into the heroes of your product. That's a different goal than finding new people. I like that. So I think that there's the distinction, and there can be some tension if you don't get that alignment. I'm really lucky we have that alignment. So I think that there is definitely, and certainly look at the things that you're influencing, look at ACV, look at the opportunities that you're helping to create. But I think putting that as the primary goal for your community, if that's not in alignment with who your community is, sometimes I've seen marketing teams do that with community teams, and it causes a lot of dissonance.
It's a good point. I love that. I'm definitely going to use that in a commercial type thing for Peers Over Beers. That was really good. Well, I think it's true. When you look, I think that you have to have goals, and you have to, like some of my goals are, hey, I want to help the marketing team to get a case study or two, for the year, or, get references and things like that, which is more of on the customer marketing side, which I'm not part of, but, you help each other to get accomplished. But at the end of the day, I love the way I kind of interpret it was, let's make your community members the heroes. You do that, then they're going to advocate for your product. They're going to do all kinds of shit. That's going to be a lot of fun, and watch them do it. And if you can get agreement on that, which who's going to disagree with that? You know what I mean? But you're still going to have some of those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just show up and be like, we're going to have some fun.
Hey, I like community, and we're just going to do these. We're going to do these fun things. No, you have to show value of why you're doing community at the end of the day. But, more and more you're starting to see kind of these executives, and more so for me, it's our CEO that just really believes in it, and you can't have any better supporter than your CEO.
Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah, but it still worked because not everybody else thinks that same way, you know? So I don't know. That was good. I really like that, how you kind of mentioned that in the marketing piece. That was really good because that resonates with me really well. So
Oh my
you,
goodness, I'm being attacked by the cat.
Itchy's like, just loving you. I mean, needs attention.
He's a cuddly little monster, and he's also likes to climb. He's a little mountain climber. So,
And for 19, gets around really well.
he can't really jump up very high anymore, but he can yell very loud for you to pick him up. So it works out. He makes do. He's adapted.
Hold me. Well, anything else that, when you think of the rest of this year that you wanted to kind of, or that you guys are thinking about?
I mean, I think like how do we reward people for their contributions? One of the things that I'm working on right now is just better ways to get people stuff, to get them, whether that's a pair of socks or, so whatever it is, whether it's swag or whether it's some other kind of thoughtful thing. Like, how do we just make that super simple? How do we make it super simple for my team? How do we make it super simple for our community leaders and for our community leads? So I am literally, in fact, waiting right now for a delivery of of apparently there's some boxes coming to my house of swag. That was the extra that I'm excited about. So
sweet. Do you use but like a system like Sendoso to kind of manage all that?
No, that's what we're working on. So we have a vendor that we work with, and we've kind of been doing things very ad hoc, and then with the acquisition things, and then the supply chain issues, and like swag. Anyone out there who is suffering from the swag struggle, I would like to extend my deep empathy, because it is real. And it's not just us. Like, there have been a lot of folks that have it's been a struggle because you have, like I mentioned, the supply chain issues. A lot of the swag is made out of the country that you are in. There's getting it somewhere. There's even just like proofing something has gotten exponentially longer. And then on top of that, like complicated systems and blah, blah, blah. So
yeah, a challenge for us is like, I can get swag anywhere in the United States, Europe, probably, and then even UK. But I have a lot of customer, or at least partners, and some customers in India, right? A lot. And I'm like, I can't send it to that one system. So I have to go email this person in India that we know, and they have to kind of build the swag in India and then ship it off there. So it's like, God, this is ridiculous.
If you have a global program, you have to think about that operation stuff globally. And this is a challenge. It is not even, like, it's just hard. It's just a challenge. So making that easier is going to be blissful. Even if it's like a tenth of a bit easier, like that.
Don't tell me you were just shipping out swag just from your house and just,
No. Well, that's not true. Sometimes. So when 2 years ago, when the offices all closed and everything, I had just gotten a shipment of Slack socks that were, I would take with me to events to just have to like randomly give to people. They would see Slack on you. They come up and like, oh, we love Slack. I'm like, here's a pair of socks. It's, it's fun to watch.
Absolutely. I love it.
Up. Anyway, so we had just gotten those in when the shutdown happened. And when they packed our desks up, like the last bit, I went in and collected everything, but I left those there because I was like, I don't need 200 pairs of socks. But then they packed the desks up and sent anything that was at your desk to your house. And so I get these 2 boxes and I'm like, what the hell is this coming in? Oh, so I have been sending socks from my house only because I don't go to the office anymore.
Yeah.
So I have a closet.
Okay, let's say you were doing it at the office though. I mean, so you were sending swag out from the office?
If I was doing it at the office, no. We had a system and things that like we went through a system, but this was just because we were going to be like random giveaways that I would. It was like my year's supply of conference stuffs that were extraneous to any other stuff. Anyway, but with the stuff that I'm getting today, we had to we order a minimum, obviously, as you do. And so we're like, well, what
Yep.
are we going to do with these other 25? And we're like in between storage places. And I'm like, I just have been waiting for this order forever. So just send it to my house. And I'm a little terrified now how much stuff is actually going to be at my house.
Oh, no.
So I had to load it into the Subaru and drive it to the office, but we'll see.
Wow. I love it though. We should have
I'll put socks in there first.
yeah, we should have a whole session around rewards, recognition, swag, and how you do it, process, things like that, how you build it, because we're starting to do that too.
We should talk to someone who knows a lot more about it than we do.
You want to?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. If you find somebody, and if I find somebody, is it somebody that is in community that has an amazing swag program and that they use, or is it, hey, didn't know somebody in marketing that uses a system? And this
I
is
think
how they do it?
I think I want to talk to someone who's in community who has an amazing swag program, and I want them to just download it into my brain as if I was Neo plugged into the Matrix.
Did you watch the last one?
Of course.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Some people didn't like it, but
I was happy with it.
Yeah, I was too.
No complaints. It's all made up, people. Calm down.
Yeah, but there's nothing like that. That first initial kind of Matrix. The first
You're never
awesome,
gonna get that back. You're
No.
never gonna get there. Never that any experience after the first Matrix, any other Matrix movie. If that's what you're looking for, you are going to be disappointed. You're never gonna see that again. And if you are of a certain age, which is like anything older than what I don't know, or younger than 20, then you probably have seen that in video games your entire life, and it is not novel to you in any way, shape, or form. So.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody just take a deep breath. It's all good. It's just the Matrix.
Exactly. Well, Elizabeth, this has been a great Peers Over Beers. Really appreciate you coming back, and we'll have you back again. But thanks, everyone, for another Peers Over Beers. I'm Chris Detzel.
I'm Elizabeth Kinsey.
All right. Thanks, everyone.